Hello again and welcome to another Mordy and Glory Warhammer 40k video. In today's episode we shall be asking and answering one simple question. What is the best 1000 point beginner army for the Emperor's true finest, his Imperial Guard? Now the reason I'm making this video is because one of the most common questions that I have had on my live streams is, Mordian, I'm just getting into the guard. I want to build up to 2,000 points, but I'm going to aim for 1,000 points first. Do you have a good list you can recommend for 1,000 points? And absolutely I do. And I figured if it's a question that's coming up all the time, it's probably a topic that is worthy of its own video. On top of this, guard is fundamentally quite a model intensive faction, and you're going to need a lot of kits to get up to 2,000 points, and that can be kind of intimidating. So having a 1,000 point army list that you can aim for and build and start having games with, I think will be really valuable and useful to a lot of beginner players. But with all of that said, let's not mess around any further. Let's fix bayonets and charge right into today's episode. Now, the first thing I want to do before we get to the list itself is cover a very important aspect about 1,000 point games. They tend to be very fast and very furious, and they can be over by turn 2 or turn 3, and that's in a 5-turn game. So you might only get halfway through the game before it's very clear who is going to win. This is often because 1,000 point games tend to be quite skewed in terms of the army lists and the units that are being brought. I don't know what it is about the game. Maybe it's because people only have 1,000 points. They want to take like their best stuff, the stuff that's the most punchy or the most shooty. But I find that at 1,000 points, people will bring armies that are a little bit skewed, and this can cause there to be quite a lot of power in them. Now, this overall is not a bad thing. Some people see this and go, oh, 1,000 points, it's unbalanced, shouldn't play it. No, not at all. I actually think 1,000 point games are very valuable, and it doesn't actually mean anything bad if the game is over in 2 or 3 turns. And why is that? Because it's a beginner game. And when you're a beginner, you want to play the game as much as possible. You just want to be able to, in an evening with your mates, maybe get 2 or 3 games in. That's fantastic. So playing at 1,000 points, even if there is a clear winner by turn 3, that's fine. Just reset, play another game. You'll get more reps in, you'll get more games in, and you'll learn the rules quicker, and you'll just be able to have more fun with models. And you'll be able to learn, because if you get smashed in one game and it's over quickly, just reset, have another game, and you might not make the same mistakes again, or you'll know very quickly how you want to adjust your list. So absolutely, I think 1,000 point games are valuable, but it's important to know that they can be quite skewed in terms of the list, and they can be over quite quickly. If that is the case, don't be disheartened. Reset and start playing again. With all of that said, now let's get into our guard army. And we're not going to be taking a super skewed army. We're going to be taking a balanced army. And the idea is we want to have something that we can learn with. We also want to use models that are easily available. But also, we want to take an army that is going to be able to have good fun against another balanced army, but importantly, we want something that will be able to survive and weather those skewed armies as well. We're going to lean into the old guard motto of redundancy, redundancy, redundancy. So someone does come flying in with 20 Blood Angel Death Company and tries to chop you to pieces in one turn, you'll be okay. You'll be able to survive that. That's what we're going for here. It's kind of like an anti-meta, also well-balanced 1,000 point army. Now at the top of this force, we have the characters. And we are going to go for our first officer, and it's going to be an epic hero. We're going to take Ursula Creed. Ursula Creed is 55 points and is just a great character at 1,000 points because not only does she have lots of cool abilities that can act as good force multipliers, like getting free stratagems and stuff like that, but fundamentally, he does 2 orders. And orders are one of the best things about the Guard. I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty of every single mechanic. I'm just going to tell you now, if you're totally new and you're not even sure what orders do, they are enhancements, they are buffs that you can put on your units from your officers to make them either fight better, move quicker, or be tougher to kill. And Ursula Creed can do 2 of them every single turn. Most officers only do 1 order, so the fact that Creed does 2 and it's quite cheap, very, very tasty, especially at 1,000 points, makes it very efficient. Our next character is going to be a regular character, not an epic hero, and we are going to go for a Cadian command squad. Now, you might be a veteran listening to this, and you might be thinking, why not go for the platoon command squad? We're going to go for a Cadian command squad, 65 points. We're going to give our Cadian officer a plasma pistol and a power fist. We're going to have 1 guardsman with the regimental standard, 1 guardsman with medipack, 1 guardsman with the master vox. We're going to have 1 guardsman left over. You can kind of equip how you want. You want to go for either a special weapon or close combat weapon. If you're going to pick a ranged special weapon, I would recommend either plasma or melter gun. If you want to go for a combat guy, go for a plasma pistol and a power fist. So in total, you're going to have 5 models in this unit. It's going to have an officer, guy with flag, guy with medipack, guy with radio, and 1 dude who's going to be adding a bit more firepower. And then we're going to go for another character, but this one's a bit different. Because yes, it is a character, but kind of taking it because it's a big tank. We're going to go for a tank commander. Tank commanders are a great way of getting armor onto the field whilst also being able to do orders. When you get to 2,000 points, you'll want to start looking at officers like Lord Solar Leontus, who can do all sorts of orders, everyone, but he's quite expensive, especially when you consider that you want some bodyguards and stuff for him. At this points level, what we need is tanks, but we also need orders. And so having a unit that can do both is very efficient. We're going to go for a tank commander. We're going to give that tank commander a demolisher cannon. We're going to have a las cannon, and we're going to have 2 multi-melters on that as well. We're also going to have a heavy stubber and a hunter missile. But we are going to pay for 1 upgrade on our tank commander, and that's going to be an enhancement. Enhancements are kind of like relics. If you played older editions, they're like paid upgrades. Whilst most units have a fixed points cost, characters can have some paid upgrades called enhancements. And the one we're going to go for is Grand Strategist. This will allow the tank commander, instead of doing 1 order, will allow him to do 2. Now the tank commander can only boss around other units, and he can't give an order to himself. So we'll come back to what the tank commander will be ordering in a moment. Just know that he's got Demosh Cannon, Las Cannon, Multi-Melters, Heavy Stubber, Hunter Killer Missile, and Grand Strategist. Now that covers all of our characters. Now let's move into the meat and potatoes, and we'll start off with the battle line. And we want to take lots of infantry. Infantry is essential for the Guard. They go forward first. They tend to act as like speed bumps against fast-moving, horrible assault armies. They capture points, and their damage output is pretty reasonable considering how many points you pay for them. In our infantry corps, in our battle line, we're going to have 3 units of Cadian shock troops. We're going to have 2 units which are 20-man large, so that's 40 Cadians in total there. I'm going to have 1 more unit which is going to be a 10-man unit. Now, each one of these 20-man squads, we're going to have a sergeant, and you can kind of give the sergeant what you want out of his options. He can take las pistol chainsword, he can take bolt pistol chainsword, or he can take an auto gun. It really doesn't matter, but if you want the best option, the most efficient option, then the drum-fed auto gun is good because it gives him more shooting. Guard fundamentally is a shooting army, and giving him a chainsword and a pistol isn't going to make much difference in combat. So you're going to have 20-man blob, 2 sergeants in there, and they're both going to have drum-fed auto guns. You're then going to have 2 guardsmen who are going to have las guns and vox casters. These are the radios. They're kind of cool. They allow you to get more command points. And then we're going to have 4 special weapons. We're going to go for 2 plasma gun and 2 melter gun. Plasma and melter are addition proof. Always been useful. Beginning of 40k all the way through to 10th edition now. Can't go wrong with Plasma and Melter. You might want to go for things like flamers and grenade launchers because they're cool and they're fun, and they do have some like niche value, and grenade launchers are actually really, really good in 10th edition. But especially if we're thinking long term, you can't really go wrong with Plasma and Melter. But like I said, you can kind of go for what special weapons you want, but I recommend you go for Plasma. We're going to have 2 squads like that. 2 squads with sergeants, radio men, 4 special weapons, and then there will be 12 basic guys with rifle. Our 10-man squad is just going to be a smaller mini version. So the 10-man squad will have 1 sergeant, that'll have 1 guy with a Voxcaster, that'll have 1 guy with a plasma gun, with a melter gun, 6 guys with. First thing we want to understand is where the officer's going to go, because you can attach your officers like Creed and your Cadian command squad to your battle line units. You can do this at the beginning of the game, and they stay as part of that unit for the game. And it means that your character like Creed, who on her own would be quite fragile, quite susceptible to getting sniped off, can go in a unit and essentially have 10 bodyguards, 10 ablative wounds. Now, the cool thing about guard battle line is you can actually add 2 leaders to one squad, and that's what we want to do. Now, you could have your officers spread out through your army, but in this case, we want to concentrate them together and make a big command blob. We're going to take that 10-man unit of Cadians, the one that was a little smaller than the other 2, and we're going to make it big. We're going to put the command squad and attach it to it. So now it's a 15-man unit, and then we're going to add Creed onto it as well. This is going to make it pretty similar size to the other 2 units, and it's going to essentially give us the equivalent of 3 20-man bricks of guard. That's a sizable infantry corps, and it's going to give us lots of bodies that we can throw down onto the table. The reason we're going to attach them to the 10-man squad rather than one of the 20-man blobs is simply because without it, 10-man squad is a little fragile. It's useless, really. And so what we want to do is basically enhance that 10-man squad whilst at the same time support our officers with extra bodies. Now we've created the command blob, something really cool happens. You can use the platoon command squad and Creed together. And the big thing here is Creed now use the Cadian command squad's Master Vox. If you read the rules on the Master Vox, it says any officer as part of the unit can use the Master Vox to increase its order range 24 inches. Now, if the Cadian command squad is on its own, that means it's just a platoon commander, just a Cadian commander that can benefit from the Master Vox. But now that we've made one big Giga unit, we've got a 10-man unit, which actually now has the command squad attached to it, and Creed attached to it, that all becomes one unit. So Creed is in the same unit as something that's got a Master Vox. So Creed can now, instead of doing orders from 6 inches away, Creed can do them up to 20 away. So this means that even if our infantry are really spread out, and maybe one's going down one flank, one's going down another flank, it doesn't matter. Creed will have plenty of range to make sure that every single infantry unit in your army is going to order. She can do 2 orders, so that's your other 2 20-man blobs sorted out. And then you've got your Cadian command squad, which can also do an order, and it can order its the 10-man unit that everyone's part of. Just to be clear, if you take the Cadian command squad and you order, for example, take aim, and it's onto the 10-man squad that everything's attached to, it's not just the 10-man squad which gets the benefit. Again, now that you've got the 10-man squad and it's got these 2 units attached to it, all counts as one unit. So when your Cadian commander tells the command blob, take aim, it's also going to benefit the special weapons and the officers and all that kind of stuff that are in. So it's really good. That extra order isn't just going to boost 10 guardsmen, it's going to boost Creed, it's going to boost everyone in the command squad, and it's going to end the case. So we've worked out where we're going to place our officers, and we've worked out how we're going to use those orders to greatest effect. But how are we going to use the infantry? Well, typically, you're going to want your infantry go up front and die for the Emperor. It is the sad reality of guard infantry that they tend to be the ones that have to die in droves for you to achieve victory on the tabletop. I see a lot of new players who put like their tanks up front, but you don't want to do that. Your tanks are your most valuable assets, and there's always more infantry in the guard. What you want to do is typically deploy your infantry in 2 lines. You want to have one of your 20-man blobs that's up front, and it's spread out in quite an extended line, covering as much ground as possible. This is going to be doing Operation Speed Bump, Operation Human Shield, for lack of a better term. And so if the enemy has an assault army like Khorne Berserkers, or got orcs, Tyranids, and they're coming charging at you, the first platoon, which is going to be one of your basic 20-man squads, not the command blob, the enemy's going to run into it and kill it. But by doing that, the rest of your army will be safe. So that it's kind of like you have your infantry up front, you have the first wave, you have the second wave behind that, and then we have our tanks behind that. And so the enemy has to chew through all of our infantry to get the stuff that's going to be hurting them, which is our tanks.
Attention guardsmen, this is an announcement by the Departamento Militarum. Element Games is an official sponsor of the Mordian Glory channel. They offer up to 20% off Warhammer 40k and 10% off bolt action and other game systems. Use the link down in the description to save money and support the channel. Anyone not using the link will be referred to the local commissariat. Also, don't forget that if you use referral code TIM3921, then you will receive double store credit, saving even more money on your future purchases. That's all for now. Fallout!
Speaking of which, let's get to everyone's favourite bit, the tank corps. Now, we've already got 1 tank, because we've got our tank commander who's in the character slot. But now we're going to get some more vehicles. And we're going to keep it simple, because we're trying to make sure that we're keeping units that are easy to learn, easy to pick up. And we are going to go for 2 more Leman Russes. Now, there are a lot of different Leman Russ variants. You've got Vanquishers, you've got Eradicators, you've got everything under the sun. But we're going to keep it straightforward. And we're going to go for double Leman Russ Exterminator. Now, Leman Russ Exterminators are possibly the best Leman Russ variant right now. And I would argue they are one of the best main battle tanks, not just in the guard, but in the entire of Warhammer. Hey, their weapons, their Exterminator autocannon, has a very reliable number of shots. It's got a high rate of fire, and it's very consistent at doing damage. Its strength 9 allows it to wound any infantry in the game on 3s, if not 2s. And it also means it can threaten vehicles. Heavy armor is still going to get wounded on 5s by the Exterminator autocannons. What's really good, though, is that it has twin-linked main gun. Gives it full rerolls to wound. Full rerolls to wound means that even if you're fishing for 5 and 6s against those enemy vehicles, you're actually going to stack up a lot of damage on. Considering that this weapon is flat damage 3, every wound that you get through against enemy infantry is probably going to kill one. Even if it's a Terminator, it's going to kill one. And if it's a vehicle, every wound you get through is probably going to take its health down by 25%. If most vehicles have about 10 to 12 wounds, 40k. So just 3 or 4 wounds through from an Exterminator autocannon that could well be firing 8 shots. And you can see why these things are pretty deadly. So the Exterminator autocannons are very good. And we're going to give them the same extra weapons as we gave our tank commander. So we're going to go for a las cannon, which gives a bit more anti-tank. We're going to go for 2 multi-melters as well. So in total, we're going to have 3 vehicles. Tank commander with a demolish cannon, which is a lot of boom boom. Demolish cannons demolish things. We're going to have 2 Leman Russ Exterminators. We're going to have a lot of take all firepower plus anti-tank as well. Las cannons and the multi. Of course, our 2 Leman Russ Exterminators are also going to have heavy stubbers and hunter killer missiles, because again, they're free upgrade. Quick side note, if you are not a fan of the Leman Russ Exterminator for whatever reason, or you want to add a little bit of addition proofing into your list, because Exterminators, they're good in 10th, but traditionally they've not been that great, you might want to consider going for the Leman Russ Battle Tank. The Leman Russ Battle Tank costs exactly the same as the Exterminator at 180 points, but it's a lot more addition proof. We call it the El Clasico, and the reason we do that in the MG community is because it doesn't matter when you've had a Lehman Russ since 3rd edition, or you've got a Lehman Russ and you bought it in 10th edition, if you've given it a battle cannon, it's never the best option, but it's never the worst option. And it's something that over the course of 20, 30 years of playing 40k for many veteran players, it's something that has always been able to get the job done. I've had a Lehman Russ battle tank in my guard collection. I was 11. I've had it for 20 years. Same Lehman Russ. I still use it in my lists competitive because it's always a viable option. So I don't want you to think it's the best option. The Exterminator right now in 10th edition absolutely is the better option. But if you're looking for something that might be a bit more long term, you can't go wrong with the Lehman Russ battle cannon. Now, regardless of whether you go for the battle tank or the Exterminator, Lehman Russes are a great unit because they're very durable with a 2+ save and 13 wounds at toughness 11, and they pack a lot of firepower. And these 3 Lehman Russes are going to be key to our victory. They do have one problem though. They only hit on 4s. That is until we take our tank commander into account. Remember, we gave him the ability to do 2 orders. And the order that you're going to put on your Lehman Russes every single turn, pretty much without fail, is going to be take aim. This means that your Lehman Russes go from hitting on 4s, hitting on 3. And a Lehman Russ Exterminator within 24-inch range, which is hitting on 3s, and has got all of its shots and everything, is going to tear through anything that you encounter at 1,000 points. And having 2 of them is frankly, it's kind of brutal. Like we did with the infantry, we want to talk about how we're going to use these tanks, and it's very straightforward. We're going to use them to destroy our opponent's unit. We're going to kill our enemies with them. Your infantry will be pushing forward onto objectives. Your infantry will be screening and dying and trying to buy you time. And they're buying you time for your tanks to go to work. And if you can stop the opponent from destroying your tanks, or stop your opponent from getting into combat with them and tying them up and making them less effective, you will find that at 1,000 points, the level of firepower that these 3 tanks can bring to the table, the tank commander and the 2 Lehman Russes, is utterly devastating. I have used this combination of 3 blobs of infantry and 3 tanks to great effect over the course of many editions, and every single time the infantry they catch the charge or they draw the initial bit of firepower, and then the tanks just go to work. And it's a very straightforward strategy, but it's a very, very effective. Now that just about covers all of the big bits when it comes to the list. There are just 3 small additional points I want to make. Firstly, veterans of the channel might be listening to this and go, Mordian, what about units that can do secondary objectives like the Cyclops Demolition Vehicle, Scions? Those units are very valuable and really important at 2,000 points. But again, when we're playing 1,000 points, you tend to find that killing power is most important. People are going for fast-paced, hard-hitting games, skew lists that come in and dominate. And so we need to be focusing in that way as well. But sure, at 2,000 points, you need things like Scions and little units that can drop down and do those important secondary. Second point I want to mention is regarding artillery. I often say that when you're playing guard, you want to have a solid core of infantry, a solid core of tanks, and season the whole thing with artillery, but you can get some indirect fire in there. Again, when we're playing at 1,000 points, we can't quite get everything we want. And if we try and fit in infantry, artillery, and tanks, we're going to do none of those things well enough. 1,000 points, you need to make some hard decisions, and you need to decide where you're going to focus. And for me, I found that guard, you can leave home without the artillery, but you can't leave home without your infantry. You can't leave tanks. And the last point is, where do we go from here? Well, this 1,000 point army is designed as a foundation. It doesn't exist in a vacuum. When you get 2,000 points, none of these units or ideas or combos are going to be relevant. No. All of this is very important, and you're going to want to continue this kind of stuff going into 2,000 points. What I would say when you're building up to your 2K is you only need 80 infantry. That's not 80 more infantry, that's 80 in total. You don't need like another blob. And you only need like 4 tanks. So you could get another Lehman Russ, or you could go for like a Rogue or Dawn. After that, you start going for some of your more tactically nuanced things, like your Lord Solar Command Blob, your point scores like your Cyclopses and your Scions, and you go for your artillery as well. Long story short, this is a good foundation. Build up to a few more infantry and another tank, and after that you can kind of add into the list what you want, because you've got your basic bases covered. When you get at 2,000 points, you can start having a bit more fun with the units that you throw in, because you know that your foundation is solid and that you've got a good skeleton. At least that's what I think. But of course, all of this is just like my opinion, man. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Do you like this 1,000 point army? Have you used something similar and found it effective? And are there some other units that you think that beginners at 1,000 points should be using in their armies? If you enjoyed today's video or found it particularly helpful, don't forget to subscribe to the channel to make sure you never miss an episode, and also smash that like button. Would you like to know more? If so, then please consider becoming a channel member or patron. By supporting the channel, not only will you be doing your part, but you'll also be helping me create more content for your viewing pleasure and unlocking a whole host of perks. You get everything from a badge next to your name, custom emojis, but the big one is access to the Mordian Glory Discord server, an online community with almost 2,500 active members. It's always popping off in the MG Discord. We've got channels for army lists, hobbying, tactics, stories, and even a pretty spicy meme section as well. For all you greenhorns that wanted to see the Mordian Glory Hole, today is your lucky day. And joking aside, I do want to say a massive thank you to all of the current channel members and patrons. You guys are amazing, truly the lifeblood of the channel. I could not do Mordian Glory full-time without the incredible and generous support of my members, so thank you guys so much. And last but certainly not least, I want to say a personal thank you to all of my top tier Patreons. These are the War Masters, and they have truly gone above and beyond the call of duty. So a big shout out to Bon Vert, Mad Larkin, Marcus Roberts, Mark Panconi, RJ Scorpion, Swordfish Trombone, John Stubbs, Nick Walsh, Diesel Fox, and August Varney. Thank you guys so much. Your incredible generosity is a massive part of how I'm able to do Mordian Glory full time, and it is a big driving force behind the channel. But I hope you all enjoyed today's video. Thank you for watching, and of course, as always, I'll see you guys next time.